I'm here for change.
Well, they took the Bible thing out now.
I couldn't see you. Couldn't see you with that neon jacket.
Oklahoma.
Good morning, everybody. Let me check and make sure that camera's looking okay. I'm gonna kind of dive right into it because I have about 45 slides or 55 slides to get through in now less than 45 minutes. So that looks pretty good. So we'll let that go. Some slides it'll take like 10 seconds, but others it'll take a little bit of time. But going to tell you a little bit this morning about the trip I took to Costa Rica, July 2nd through the 13th. Let me just say, as I always do, how thankful I am to be able to do this. I remember the first year that it was suggested that I go, 2016, I was scared to death. And there was a part of me that honestly didn't really want to go. And now somebody told me I couldn't, I might go down fighting. And this year was special because it was the first time I'd been since 2019. Obviously 2020 came along and that affected things, and there was a group that went last year, but I was unable to go, so it was special to be back this year and to take part in that trip. I am going to try to finish with enough time that might have some time for questions, but I will ask if we can hold those to the end so I can get through everything that I want to get through. And then if we have time, we can do that maybe a few minutes at the end. And I also have up here on the table just a few things from the trip, some things of my own that you can come and look at afterward if we have time. So I'll always start with a little bit about the country. Costa Rica is a country in Central America. It is not an island. I think some people sometimes get it confused with Puerto Rico, which is an island far to the east, but Costa Rica is a country in Central America, bordered by the Caribbean Sea on the east, by the Pacific Ocean on the west, Nicaragua to the north, Panama to the south. Hopefully you can kind of see there how it lays out in the on the map there. You can see Mexico there towards the top left of the map. And then you're not too far from South America, not too far from the equator. Some people think that makes it really hot, and it is warm. We'll talk a little bit about that. What it more often does is your days are more equal. The sun will come up at around 5 in the morning, and it'll start to set around 5 or 6 in the evening. You get about 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of dark. Unlike here, where, at the height of summer, it's like, 10 o'clock before it's fully dark. There, it's a little bit different. Just a few quick facts about Costa Rica. Population of about 5 million as of 2022. And I looked at the numbers. That's roughly equivalent to the state of South Carolina. As far as numbers of population. Now, it's a little bit more dense in Costa Rica. They have a little bit less area, 220 people per square mile. So it's a little bit more densely populated, but as far as total population, about the same as South Carolina. Primary language, of course, is Spanish, which I've been trying to learn since my first trip, and I'm getting better. I did notice on this trip, even after being away for 5 years, I noticed some improvements, and I was thankful for that. The biggest problem I still have is when somebody who is a native speaker speaks to me in Spanish. Part of it's the accent, and part of it is the speed with which they speak. It's really hard to understand. Now, we had some sisters who went with us who were from Mexico. I could understand them a little bit better, and I think that's the accent. It is different. It's just one of those things. Just like in our own country, you go here to the south, we talk a certain way. You go to the northeast, they talk a certain way. You go out west, It's different in different regions. It's the same thing you think about the English language. You go to the UK, they still speak English, but it's a very different English. It sounds different. Same thing with like Australia. Sounds different, but it's still English. It's still Spanish, but it's a Costa Rican dialect or Spanish. Just like you go to Mexico, it's a little bit different there. You go to Spain, it's a little bit different there. That's just the way language works. Costa Rica is dominantly, primarily, almost 3/4 of its citizens claim to be Christian, with about half of all Costa Ricans being Catholic, 47.5%. And that does present some challenges to our work. Some people, especially if they're Catholic, oftentimes don't want to listen to us. Now, that's not every person, but there are some who, if we come to the door, we start speaking, they'll say, I'm Catholic, and that's kind of like, I don't want to talk to you, go away. So it's just something we run into. Of course, we run into things like that here. If we're out and talking to people, some people, it may not be because they're a certain denomination or religion, but they just may not want to talk spiritual things with somebody. They don't want somebody coming to their door. I understand that. Costa Rica is one of the most biodiverse countries in the world as far as different flora and fauna. In that little bitty area, there are so many different species of plant, animal, and you'll see some examples. We'll look at some slides as we go through. And of course, it is a popular tourist destination. A lot of people go there for vacations. There is a lot of things that are geared toward that industry. And why not? It's a beautiful country. It is, a beautiful place. There's a lot, you got a little bit of everything. Beaches, different places you can go and just enjoy the beauty of that country. Speaking of, it's not just the natural beauty, but sometimes the architectural beauty that you can see. This is the hotel we stayed in the first night we were there in San Jose, which is the capital city. This hotel was beautiful, well kept. The man who ran it was a very nice, very wonderful man. He has kept a beautiful place. You can see just some of the detail that he's taken. You can kind of see at the top there of that picture, the branches hanging down. That is a mango tree that the hotel was kind of built around. And you'll see that quite a bit. You'll see, fruit trees of various kinds. You just be walking along and there's something you could just about pick it and eat it. I've seen people do that on previous trips. What was interesting about this is every now and then a mango would fall off the tree and hit the roof and make a loud noise. I think that might have happened a couple of times while I was sleeping that night. It kind of woke me up. I wondered what it was, but I didn't hear it again, so all was well. Kept on going. Speaking of animal life, now this picture, I did not take this picture. Nobody from the States took this picture. This was actually about a week ago. One of the brothers that lives there in Costa Rica posted this on Facebook. If you can kind of see that is a sloth, which I have seen on previous trips. Did not see one this time, but just kind of hanging around. That's what they do. A couple of these parrots. This picture is a little bit grainy because it was really zoomed in. That's up on the corner of our hotel where we stayed most of the trip. We stayed in the one hotel the first night. Then we traveled to where we were working, stayed in another hotel. These parrots would wake us up just about every morning. They'd be sitting up there, and that's about 5:30 or earlier. I jokingly kept saying that, the whole trip I did not sleep until my alarm. My alarm was set to go off at 6. Most mornings I was up 5:15, 5:30. Sometimes just because I woke up, sometimes because these jokers were not far outside my window, squawking and making a lot of noise. But they would greet us every morning, right there on that corner, and make some noise, which that's part of it. It's kind of fun to see. And I don't know who took all these pictures of cats. I don't know anybody, anybody around who would do that. No, it was me. Just about every time I saw a cat, I was like, I gotta have a picture, because I love the kitty cats. The one on that top left was at the hotel in San Jose. He was very friendly. Got to pet him a little bit and enjoyed that. The rest of them, just as we were out and about, and you do see a lot of that, a lot of cats walking, running around. A lot of people do have pets. Some people have dogs. That sign, you can't really see it at the top, but it says peligro, danger, fierce dog. On the other side of that fence, very fierce indeed. And trust me, I think if we could have gotten on the other side of that gate, they would have tried to tear us up. They were not happy that we were there. On the other hand, this little girl was as friendly as she could be. She was coming up to the fence, wanted pets, and wanted us to give her some attention. So it's the small dogs you got to worry about. The big ones, usually pretty friendly. That's two of the ladies, young ladies from our group. Chloe on the left and Ceci, who is from Mexico, there on the right. That was one day when we were out door knocking. We stopped to say hi to the pooch. Because I don't think anybody came to the door, so we stopped and talked to the dog. Oh yeah, this is a fun story. They do a lot of cattle farming, especially in the area that we're in, and this was from the last day of the trip as we were traveling back to San Jose. Some of us were getting on the airplane that night. Some others were getting on the airplane the next morning. That trip probably should have taken 4 to 5 hours because we got turned around a couple of times because of some things we didn't expect, because we got into traffic jams along the way. The trip ended up taking about 9 hours. 9 hours in the car. We left Tilleron about 7:30 Friday morning. I think we got to San Jose about 4:30, which was about half an hour before we had to have the rental cars turned in. So we made it, but just barely. And this is just a shot of some of the beautiful scenery. It's all very green. It is a tropical climate, not too far from the equator. So the temperature is roughly the same year round. It'll fluctuate a little bit. Yeah, you do see the wind turbines up there on top. They do have a lot of wind energy, which in that area, it's often very windy up on the mountain, so they harness that and use it. You might even see a volcano as you're traveling through Costa Rica. That is Arenal volcano, which has been dormant, I think, since 2010. I hope it's not a threat. It hasn't been an eruption for some 14 years, but I mean, think about it, that's not that long ago. But it's just kind of cool to be driving along and you see something like that. Of course, I didn't take a lot of scenery pictures this time around. Usually as I'm riding along and we're going from place to place, I'll try to take pictures out the window. But I got a little bit of a different experience this year because I had to drive for the first time in my life in another country. This is the car that I got to drive. It was a nice little, Nissan. I guess you would call that an SUV or something. I don't know, how you would classify that. But it was fun to drive. Good thing is they do drive on the right side of the road, so that I didn't have to get used to that. Was kind of fun. There were times I would get it up to 80, 90, 100. Of course, that's kilometers per hour, so but it was an interesting experience. I did have a lot of fun doing that. I wouldn't be opposed to somebody else doing it next year, just because it is a little bit more stress. Feels a little bit more responsibility because you do got to take care of that car. We always have something go on with one of the vehicles. In the past, it's been clutches going out on one of the vans. while we're driving up a hill. That was fun. Cars just breaking down. This year, not the one that I was driving, but another one, had to replace a battery in it. So there's always something that goes wrong with the car. It's just kind of a trip tradition. Thankfully, it wasn't mine. I'm very thankful for that. But that was an interesting new experience. I was kind of glad to do. Everybody always wants to know about the food. And you will notice on every one of those pictures, there is rice. Almost every one of those pictures, there are beans. Those are staples of the Costa Rican diet. Even for breakfast, that one in the top left, that was breakfast. Got some scrambled eggs there, some toast, a little bit of white cheese. That was pretty good. Some sausage, and then right there in the middle, it's a dish called gallo pinto, which is a mixture of rice, beans, and some few vegetable, onions and things like that thrown in. It's delicious. Not something you typically we don't typically think of rice and beans as a breakfast food, but that is like the typical breakfast food in Costa Rica is gallo pinto. It is a traditional dish, and it's delicious. I had it every single morning while we were there and loved it. Some other things, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what everything was, but it was good. They fed us very well. They always do. We enjoy it. You might notice in the top right, that top right picture, at the top of that picture, a little bottle of sauce. This stuff right here, Lozano salsa. It's kind of it's not hot. It's got a little bit of a bite to it, but it does help sometimes. We put it on just about everything. I jokingly said next year before we go, I'm buying stock in the company because we bought so much of it during the trip. Just about any time we stopped for a meal, there'd be 2 or 3 bottles on every table, and everybody shares one another. So of course I brought some of that home. Actually had some this morning with breakfast, and that was delicious. I can't see that clock back there. Okay, I'm still doing good on time. And you might see some things that are familiar along the way. I mentioned I arrived on Tuesday evening, July the 2nd. Some of the group didn't arrive until Wednesday, so those of us who arrived Tuesday night, we had breakfast that morning at the hotel, and then we went to McDonald's and had lunch and waited for the rest of the group to arrive. So, that's the double cheeseburger meal, fries, and a drink. Pretty much tasted like it does back here in the States. Now, they had some things on the menu that were different, but at the same time, it was still McDonald's. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I got an ice cream cone a little bit later because we were there for several hours. Of course, every group that would come in, they would get something to eat. So it's not like we were just sitting there taking up space. We were still customers in a way. But we waited for everybody to get there. A couple of flights were a little bit delayed, so it was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon before we actually got on the road on Wednesday to complete the trip to where we were going to be working. This is from the last night. Those of you that have been here in previous years, you probably heard that we always, on the last night in San Jose, we go to Denny's. There's one about within walking distance of our hotel, so we walk down there, and it's kind of, usually our first taste of what we would say American food in about 2 weeks, and it's always something to look forward to. This is Giovanna. She is from Mexico. She ordered the burger. She did not know it was going to be that big. We jokingly said that's how we took care of the traffic jam a little bit earlier in the day. That's all that beef that's on that burger. I had an omelet, a Philly cheesesteak omelet. It was delicious. It was really good. I didn't take a picture of my omelet. I apologize for that. But we always enjoy that last night together. It's our last time together. We get so close to one another over the 2 weeks. We enjoy. Half the time, you get there, you only maybe know half the people, if that, If you've been before, you know about half the people on the trip. The other half, you have no idea who they are. You never met them before. But by the end of the trip, we're all family. We've grown to love each other, even over that course of 10, 11 days. You spend so much time together, working for the Lord. You can't help but grow to love one another. So we have so much fun together. We do go to work. We are there to work. I was joking with a couple of folks earlier. We're not there on vacation. It is a beautiful country. I would love to go there on vacation one day, but that's not why we go. We go there to work, but we do have fun together, enjoy one another's company and fellowship. So, about the work. That's the main thing we want to talk about, the main thing we want to, I want to share with you. Where we work is in the Guanacaste province, which is there in red. It is in the northwest part of the country. I meant to bring my mouse so I could use it like as the laser pointer, because this laser pointer doesn't work on the screen. But if you see to the far right of that red, you see that little lake that's kind of in there on the map. That's kind of in the general area where we worked. We worked in two towns, Cañas and Tilarán. Two towns that are in that general area around. When that lake is Lake Arenal, same name as the volcano. It's not that far from where the volcano is. And we usually drive around it. At times in the past, we've gone and worked up around that lake. It is beautiful. The whole country really is beautiful, but especially in that area, it is gorgeous. Some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen. But that gives you an idea of where we work. San Jose, kind of there in the middle of the country. So it's about it took us probably 4 or 5 hours that first night when we were driving from San Jose to Tilarán, which is, we stay in Tilarán for the whole trip. It's a bit of a drive, and that first night it was already dark, it was raining. I didn't like that too much, but I was following, so I just kept the van in front of me. I knew I'd be okay. Of course, we stopped like every hour and a half, because somebody's, with 20-something people, somebody's going to have to go to the bathroom, somebody's going to need a snack, But usually it's, a bathroom break, but we'll stop and get snacks, something to drink when we make those stops. We worked with two congregations. The church building on the left, that is the congregation at Cañas. Cañas is probably the harder part of the trip because it is at a lower elevation. It is about a little less than 300 feet above sea level. I checked this morning. Orangeburg is about 250 feet above sea level, so we're kind of looking at similar elevation there. Average temperature in Cañas probably between 85 and 95 degrees. But you might think, oh well, that's it gets hotter here on average, but the humidity. You're looking at humidity sometimes in the 90%, 80s throughout most of the day. So it can be a little bit uncomfortable. When you're walking around, you're sweating. It's not really evaporating because it's so humid. But it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful church, congregation of God's people. I love them very much, and it's a good work. It's just a little bit harder. Tilarán, which is on the right, is up on the mountain. It's about, I looked at it this morning, I want to say about 2,000 feet in elevation. So that's a big difference between one and the other. And we stay in Tilarán for the entire trip. So every day for the first part of the trip when we're working in Cañas, it's about a 30-minute drive down the mountain and then 30 minutes back up. We make that trip twice a day. We go down in the morning, we do our door knocking, our VBS. I'll show you some pictures from those in a few minutes. We drive back up in the afternoon to get ready for evening service, and then we drive back down for evening service. And when that's done, we go back up again. So that's about 2 hours out of the day that we just spend driving. If you look at them on a map, they're not that far apart, but because you're going up and down the mountain, that elevation, it takes a little while to make that trip. But Tiburon is, again, it's up on the mountain. It'll be a little bit cooler, maybe upper 70s some days, low 80s. It can get into the upper 80s and even the 90s. That did happen a couple of days. It's humid. Everywhere in Costa Rica is humid. Just know that. Everywhere that I've been anyway is humid. There's usually in Tiburon a nice breeze blowing, sometimes a pretty strong wind actually. That makes it a little bit easier, a little bit more bearable. Plus when we're working there in the latter part of the trip, you don't have that 2 hours we spend going up and down the mountain every day. So we have a little bit more time for other things, and that's nice. So that's the easier part of the trip. I say easier, by no means is it easy. We're still working, we're still doing the Lord's work. So every day, except for Sunday, of course, being the Lord's Day, we a little bit different schedule because of worship and all of that. But every day that we're going out and working, we start with a devotional. That picture is Brother Herman, who is the preacher there in Cañas. Brother Wayne Brewer, who is one of our group leaders, is translating. Wayne is fluent in Spanish. Wayne actually is works with a congregation in Arkansas, their Spanish ministry, doing very good work. And he's been doing this trip for probably 20 years or more. They've been going every year except for the few years we missed because of COVID. Doing very good work. Brother Herman is the preacher there in Cañas. He is, by and large, the one when we leave, he continues the work that we've been doing because we make a lot of contacts. We set up Bible studies. We have our own Bible studies as well, but he follows up on a lot of that after we leave. So he's doing a lot of work. Wonderful man, by the way. Love him so much. He speaks pretty good English. I would say, he speaks pretty good English, a little broken, and I try to speak to him in Spanish, as well. And somewhere in there we communicate. We do a pretty good job. Every morning we do have a devo. There's Brother Daryl there at the podium. Brother Willie Alvarenga is translating for him. Willie is the director for the Spanish department at the Brown Trail School of Preaching just outside of Dallas, Texas. They have a good program there. He does good work. He actually came on this trip kind of as a last-minute addition. We had one brother who was going to be acting as a translator, also was going to be teaching all of the teen Bible school classes, and he couldn't make it, so Willie came in at last minute. He did some teaching, did some preaching, and did a lot of translating. Very thankful for him. Glad to know Willie. He actually... he was there the first time I went in 2016. That was also his first trip, and this was his first time to come back and be with us. He did have to leave a little early because he had to get back for something he had back home, but it was good to have him while we had him. And Brother Daryl, I'll say more about him as we go along because he was just a treasure to have with us. This is just some of us going out, doing our door knocking. And just so you know, yes, I was part of it too. There's a picture of me walking along with some of the ladies that were working with me that day. Of course, we always have a translator with us. That's why it's so important. We usually get some folks from Mexico. Sometimes people from the States will come and translate for us, but without a translator, we can't do anything, because there's a language barrier. And that would make it kind of hard if we're not speaking the same language. It makes it kind of hard to teach. This is at the heart of what we do while we're there, and that's having Bible studies with people. That is Brother Daryl there in the gray shirt on the left, and Daryl is like a wizard at setting up Bible studies. It's like every day we go out, if he if he didn't already have a study that he had set up the day before, every day that we went out, within 10 minutes, he's in somebody's home studying with them. He's just really good at setting those up and then following through. And I think this gentleman, they went back 2 or 3 times to study with him. And, you know, that was one that we kind of had to leave in the hands of the preacher there, because we didn't really come to the conclusion. But hopefully, the Lord willing, they'll continue studying with that gentleman that you see there in the white tank top. And some good fruit will come from that. Every afternoon, from about 2 to 3:30, 4 o'clock, we do a vacation Bible school. We go in one of the gyms that is, they have local gyms that we can go and set up in. And so just some different pictures from, we have 4 different classes, like different age groups, and we get to teach them about the Bible. This year, the themes were all centered around David, different stories from David's life. That is Brother Willie teaching the teen class. One thing we did this year is all the teenagers got one of these little bags. It's got some different phrases in Spanish, like Summer 2024. Got a couple of scripture references on there. Church of Christ, it says. And many of them, they brought them back every day. They loved having them. We had some extras, so I snagged one. I thought I could use it as well. Very thankful to be able to do that. There's another class sitting around in the circle. Lisa there teaching them. I think she's teaching about when Saul tried to pin David to the wall with a spear. But that's part of the story. So, and the kids are wonderful. There I am. I'm teaching. I think that was the second day of VBS. I got the easy one. I was teaching about David and Goliath. So I was like, and bearing in mind, we were supposed to have one teacher for the teen Bible class. He was going to do the whole week. And then we found out, maybe a month or 2 before we left, that he was not going to be able to make it. And so several of us had to step in and teach the classes that he was going to teach. So I was very thankful to get an easy one, so to speak, teaching about David and Goliath. And I thought it went okay. I was happy with it. And again, many of those kids are so wonderful. I'll say more about the young people as we go. Of course, sometimes you're not teaching, you're not helping with the class. What do you do? We're kind of stuck when we're in Conyers and can't really go and do anything. So a few people just kind of hang out. Which, by the way, many of you know Brother Michael Richardson there on the left. He is the missionary that we support. He is the big part of why I go on this trip. After meeting him and learning about the work, it started to be really encouraged that I should go with him. And that's what we do. That's Brother John Griffin there in the middle. John is wonderful, wonderful brother in Christ. When he preaches, though, you're going to be there for a while. And he knows it. We joke with him about it. He's a very long-winded preacher. And that's just when he's preaching in English. It gets even longer when you have to translate. But he does a wonderful job. He is a very sound preacher. Just need to put him on clock. And then Brother Russ there in the red, Russ Earl, oversees the Online Academy of Biblical Studies. They live in Missouri. He runs that. It's completely online, so it doesn't really have I guess the home base is wherever they are, which they're in Missouri now. He also runs Bible Way Media, which you can find online. They have several resources, podcasts, that kind of thing. This was my first time meeting Russ. I got to know him and his wife, Lisa, who I mentioned earlier, and their daughter, Chloe, who I mentioned earlier. Got to know them very well and really enjoyed that time together. They've gone on several trips to different places. This was their first time in Costa Rica, but I think they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed getting to know and visit with them. In the evening, it's basically a gospel meeting. We have a worship service every evening. Starts about 6:30, goes to, we'll probably leave about 8:30, depending on who's preaching. If John's preaching, it might be like 9:30. But this was the first night of the meeting. This was Thursday night. I got to preach there in Conyers, and I don't remember what the theme was now. I could go back and find it, but Brother Willie was translating for me. And so there again, I did do something. I didn't just go down there and have a vacation. And of course, while we're having the Bible school, or the worship in the evening, they also have some classes for children during the preaching. And that is their teaching. Diane, Michael's wife, wonderful sister. Again, been doing this for several years. Anna there in the middle is her translator. She's from Mexico. And then with her back to us there with the pigtails, that's Addison. That is Wayne's granddaughter, if I'm remembering correctly. If I got that wrong, somebody will correct me maybe. She's, I don't know how old she was, but she's pretty young. It was a joy to have her along as well, though. Her and her mother, Wayne's daughter, were there. Just wonderful things that we do. All right. On Sunday into Monday, we transitioned to working in Tilleron. And it's much the same. This is the group, all of our group, plus some of the brethren from Costa Rica that were there with us out in front of the church building there at Tilleron. This is Salo Reyes. He is from Tilleron. He is not a full-time preacher, but he is doing a lot of the preaching and teaching. He and one other brother are doing a lot of that. He was kind of the leader for the congregation while we were there. Previous preacher that had been there, he is no longer there, and I don't know exactly why. Not really my business, but Salo's doing great work. Again, he has taken on the responsibility. He is following up with a lot of the people we work with, contacted and studied with. He is married to Laura, who is there in the blue top with glasses. She is an American. She went on one of these trips several years ago, and she fell in love, not just with the country, but she is from the States, from Arkansas, I believe, but now, of course, she lives there. She is married to Salo, and again, they're doing great work. One thing about having Laura there is some of the food options in Tilleron looked a little bit more like things from back home. And I do think that was her influence by and large. Had a hamburger one night, some spaghetti, chili, which you would think, it's 85 degrees with like 90% humidity. Do you really want chili? Well, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And there, the bottom right, that was a fried chicken sandwich with some potato chips and big old slice of pineapple, which if you like pineapple, if you've only had it here, no, you don't like pineapple. It is so rich, so juicy, so sweet. I wish I could bring some of it home. Customs won't let you do that, so can't bring fresh fruit across the border. But it is so delicious. Pineapple we get here is good too. It just doesn't really compare. I'll say that. So if you like pineapple, you want to try the really good stuff, come with us next year. And the coffee as well. The coffee is amazing. I told a couple of people, after 2 weeks of drinking coffee in Costa Rica every morning, coming home and using my Keurig, it just was not the same. And it really left a lot to be desired. Of course, I did bring some home with me. I don't make it every morning, but I do when I can. And just that little bit of taste of, being back. Of course, they make it a lot better than I do. Of course, they grow a lot of coffee there in Costa Rica because of the volcanoes, the rich soil. It's great for agriculture. They grow the pineapple, they grow the coffee, they grow so many other things. Wonderful produce. And as I mentioned, when we're working in Tilleron, we don't have the trek up and down the mountain every afternoon, every evening. So sometimes there's time for something, like a sweet treat in the evening, a little bit of ice cream. That first picture there, Diane snapped it of me. She was sitting in the van with the door open, and I was enjoying my coconut ice cream. It was very good. And then I got a picture of some of the others one night. We did that just about every night in Tilleron. I think there was one night we didn't, but we loved going to get ice cream. And it's good. It's good. They have some flavors there that you really can't get anywhere else. And it's really enjoyable. I knew I would start to run out of time, but I got to talk about these young people. Some of these are from the United States and Mexico, but some of them are the kids there in Costa Rica. And many of them were there with us every day as we were going out door knocking, which, keep in mind, this is their school break. The Monday after we left, they went back to school. So they spent their school break helping us do the Lord's work. They deserve to be commended for that. And again, some of these are the young folks. And when I say young, some of them are, like in their 20s. But that's young, right? Some of them are much younger. See that little girl there on the front? That's Ava. She is just as cute as can be. I think she's like 3 or 4, maybe 5. I don't know how old she is, but I'm just guessing. But she is as cute as can be. And the young man there in all black, kind of under the, right there in almost in the center of the screen, or maybe that's blue jeans. Anyway, the black shirt. That is Moises or Moses. I can't say enough good things about that young man. That's not to say that there's nothing good to say about the others, but that young man was he's going to be a wonderful servant. He already is a wonderful servant in the Lord's church. And I don't know exactly how old he is, but it was just such a joy to get to know and work with him. He will lead singing. He will lead a prayer. He probably lead a devo or preach if you ask him to. Speaks pretty good English, but he's a worker. He would come to the Bible class, and the thing is, in each place we work, the Bible school, we teach the same lessons because it's in a different place. Well, he came to the Bible school in Cañas. He came to the Bible school in Tilleron. So on the second day when I'm teaching David and Goliath, he had already heard my lesson. He's giving all the answers. He was willing to read. He was truly a special young man to work with. Again, we'd start in the morning with the Devo, go out, knock doors. Actually, no, that's in Tilleron. Yeah, okay. This was on the last day of work. This was on Thursday. We didn't go door to door, but we went up to the plaza, the square that's there in Tilleron, and just kind of walked around and handed out flyers. If you want, I have one of the flyers up here that we handed out in tracts and things like that, just inviting them to the things that we were doing, the Bible school, the gospel meeting. Giovanna was kind of working as my translator if we did get to stop and talk to anybody. I will say that day, that Thursday, we were up there. It was kind of cloudy, and it was a pretty heavy wind. It got a little bit chilly. It got a little bit cool walking around that square. But nonetheless, it was a joy to do that work. But again, Bible studies are at the heart of what we're there to do. This gentleman with his back to us, that's Juan. Here he is with his wife. He doesn't even live in Tilleron or Cañas. He lives in another town about 2 hours away. But he came and worked with us, and he also just has a knack for getting people to talk and let him teach them a little bit. That's what he saw him doing in that earlier picture. There's a couple more pictures of studies. Again, more from the Bible school. This was in Tilleron, so it's a different gym. We had chairs, which that was nice. I told a couple of people, Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ in Romans chapter 11, or 1 Corinthians chapter 11. I said, well, Jesus, when he taught, he sat down. So I'm imitating the Lord by sitting down while I teach. Again, I was teaching David and Goliath. with those young people. Again, they were wonderful. Enjoyed that. And then meeting of the minds, Wayne and Michael. I'm sure they were talking about something important. I don't know what. I just snapped a picture. And this is a picture from one of the, I think this was Thursday evening, our last night of the gospel meeting. You can see it's a pretty packed house, quite a few people there. Of course, we filled up a lot of seats. The brethren there filled up a lot of seats, but there were a lot of visitors as well. And again, I think these were both Thursday night. Brother Herman from Canyas was leading singing. And I love singing when we're there because, it's, some sing in English, some sing in Spanish, but it still blends together so beautifully. And it's a blessing. And then the last night we were there, I did have the privilege once again to preach. This time Brother Wayne had to translate for me. I say had to. I'm sure he was glad to do it, but he does a wonderful, wonderful job. Again, Bible classes. Yeah, I got to get through these. This lady that's seated there, I don't remember her name, but she was there, I think, almost every night of the gospel meeting. And as we were, when we were leaving, I think she was getting close to making a decision. I have not heard if anything has come from that, but there was a group going and studying with her every day, and then she was there every evening for the meeting. So prayers that something good will come from that. And what a better way to end on the final night that we were there. This is Diana. She is one of the young people. You may have seen her recognize her from some of the other pictures. She decided to obey the gospel that night. Of course, again, she has been there at the congregation. I think she's actually Saulo's niece. So there's a family connection there. So even more special moment for him. But what a better way to end the trip. We say, we don't go to baptize. Obviously, we want to baptize people. We don't go just to get them in the water. We go to make disciples. But we rejoice when there is baptism. And that doesn't happen every year that we go, but we did get to enjoy that this year. So we are thankful to God for that and praying for her as she begins her walk with Jesus. Just a little less than a month now that she's been a Christian. This was July 12th, I guess. Today is August 4th, so she hasn't been a Christian for a month. So she's a babe in Christ. So pray for Diana. Pray for the other lady that's been studying. Again, I wish I could remember her name. Altogether, I don't remember the exact numbers. I had them written down, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave them. We had dozens of contacts that were made, dozens of studies that we got to sit down and have with people. And that's the main reason we go, is to share the gospel, to teach the truth. We have fun. We enjoy ourselves, but we go there to teach. We go there to preach. And I'm thankful to get to do that. I pray and hope we get to do it again next year. And I know at least one person has already expressed interest in doing that. We'll start planning around January, February. So if anybody's interested, come on. We'll be glad to have as many hands as we can. But that's it. I knew I wouldn't get through everything and have time for questions. I hoped. But some of those pictures, I see them and I just can't stop talking. But if you do have any questions, please ask me. You can ask me privately. Again, you can come up here. I've got some things to share. But that's it. Thank you for letting me go, praying for the work, and supporting that work. Thank you. And because of that, you're a part of the work too. So just because you're staying here doesn't mean you're not part of the work. And that's it. Thank you all.